Did you think that building a sales team that performs without you was going to be easy? I did. I hired a sales manager with a great resume, and 12 weeks later, we fired him. Not because he was lazy, but because we gave him zero systems. If you want sales to be simple and predictable without you having to get into the weeds, here are 7 things that I wish I knew before this happened. Number one, do not promote your top closer. Founders promote their best closer into management, and the team gets worse, not better. I lived this. I'd get hired as a closer, I'd ramp fast and I'd start producing, and then I'd get promoted. Deep down, I knew that I didn't know how to lead a sales team. Then the predictable thing happened. I couldn't transfer my skills to other reps. I didn't have a training or a management system, so I kept getting pulled back into closing deals myself because I couldn't figure out how to replace myself. This becomes a vicious cycle. The founder thinks that they promoted a manager, but they really built is a fragile sales machine that only works when one person is in the deals. Here's a lesson that I learned. Before you promote your top rep, you need to have a rep producing machine. Onboarding, ramp playbook, scorecards, coaching, training, and a repeatable sales process. And you need the right person. The best closers aren't automatically great leaders. You have to look for someone who gets satisfaction from making other people better, not just winning for themselves. If you miss this next one, you'll keep cycling through managers every 6 to 12 months. Number two, sales managers fail because they inherit chaos, not systems. Here's the problem. You hire a sales manager expecting them to fix sales, but there's no playbook, there's no reporting, no consistent data, and no operating rhythm. You're literally setting them up to fail. I was hired by a client to fix their sales team. And in week one, I realized that there was no data. There was nothing reliable to diagnose. The first few weeks were not optimization. They were basics, tracking, reporting, creating structure so that we could see what's actually happening. The major lesson I learned here is that once we implemented a simple sales management system, I'm talking daily huddles, daily tracking and reporting, accountability and coaching on a daily basis, the patterns started to become obvious. For example, their show rate was hovering right around 50%. So with a few process tweaks and tighter follow-up standards, we got it to 75% within a couple weeks. If your show rate goes from 50% to 75%, you just increase your effective lead flow by 50% without even spending another dollar on marketing. A system makes it impossible to ignore reality, and that's when performance finally becomes fixable. Next, I'm going to show you how to protect your team culture. Great sales managers protect the team, not their ego. Here's the problem. A lot of managers will take credit when the team wins and blame the reps when the team loses. That mindset kills trust very fast. For example, I was at a 9-figure company award banquet after we had literally just broke 160 million that year. Our sales director got an award for breaking records. He got on stage and he basically took full credit. You could literally feel the emotion in the room shift. An entire team that had carried the numbers heard him say, "This was me." And he never once mentioned or gave credit to the team. After that, I could hear how the entire team was speaking about him. They stopped trusting him. And here's a lesson that we learned. If the team is winning, they get the credit. If the team is losing, the manager has to own it. Because as a manager, it's our job to set the standards, to coach them, and to create an environment where reps can win. You can't lead people that you don't respect, and they can't follow someone that they don't trust. Now that you know that, let me show you how experience can be misleading. Number 4, experience is not a qualification. Someone can have the title sales manager on their resume and still have no idea or have any real management skill. I broke through one time. I got the title of sales manager. And then as soon as I got that, I could easily jump from one company to the next for years without anyone actually asking me the questions that mattered. Nobody asked me, what's your sales methodology? Nobody asked me, what's your coaching cadence? Nobody asked me, what does your reporting system look like? What metrics are you tracking and managing daily? Here's the lesson that I learned. Before you hire a sales manager, make them show you a proven management system, something that they've learned that they've built or something that they refined over time. And if you ask them to produce this and they cannot, and they cannot at least explain it, this is a major red flag. Experience is only valuable if it produces a repeatable process. And if you don't have a system, how can you expect a repeatable process? Next, I'm going to show you how to avoid the biggest trap that sales managers face. Number 5, 80% of sales management is quality control. Typically, what management looks like is putting out fires, Slack messages, meetings, shiny new tools, different technology, and all the important stuff actually gets pushed to the side. I've had days where I looked up as a sales manager at 6 p.m. and thought, what did I actually do today? And when I answered myself, it was Slack, it was random calls, random huddles, urgent problems being pulled into a meeting. You got 5 minutes, you got a second. But when I really looked at what I did that day, there was almost no coaching and almost no inspection of the sales team, of the sales rep. Here's a lesson that I learned after many years of this being pulled in different directions. I learned that the job is boring, and it can be boring, the repetitive components of it, but it's powerful. And I started to make a point to review 5 sales calls per week, per rep, every single week, no matter what, non-negotiable. Then I would give feedback on those calls and I would enforce the standards. And literally the goal was just to get 1% better every single day. That's the difference between a team that has talent and a team that produces consistently. This next one is why experienced sales managers still miss numbers. Number 6, you can't improve what you don't measure. Most teams look at sales data once a week, right before the sales meeting, right before the founder update, and that's just too slow, and you're going to be lagging behind. You won't catch or you won't see the patterns soon enough. When I first started managing sales teams, I would track revenue and close rate because that's what I got paid on. I didn't understand the process, the metrics, or what is actually creating revenue. Speed to lead, show rate, follow-up, rep capacity, pipeline coverage. All of these things were almost like figments of my imagination. I knew they existed, but I didn't actually know how to utilize them. The big lesson that I learned here is that when you measure each step of the sales process, you can start to find leverage. A lot of teams will obsess over close rate, but oftentimes it's easier to double revenue just by fixing show rate or speed to lead than trying to coach people into doubling their close rate, which is extremely difficult and takes a long time. This brings us to the last major problem. Number 7, trust but verify, especially with new sales managers. Here's the problem. Most founders want out of sales management as fast as possible. They hire a sales manager and they totally disappear. And that's when standards start to slip and the system overall will start to collapse. I recently helped a client that was doing over $10 million per year hire a sales manager. This individual was older than me. He had a better resume. He had grown bigger teams. On paper, he was perfect. I made a big mistake here. I did a quick playbook handoff. I just assumed that he'd be able to pick up and I stepped away. A few weeks later, I realized that he had the experience, but he didn't know how to utilize the systems and he had defaulted to old habits. By the time I caught it, he was already set in his ways and it was too late. Here's the big lesson that I think founders should take away from this. If you can't inspect it daily, you don't own it. We have to make it impossible for a sales manager to do a couple things. They have to review numbers daily. They have to review calls daily. And they have to track activity daily. And it's all verified by a simple daily management report. If you don't, you'll discover the truth at the end of the month on the 28th or the 30th or the 31st when it's too late to fix the month. If you want the systems behind an 8-figure sales team, just hit subscribe.